Buggada buggada bum, buggada buggada bum.
Tired, so tired, overtired.
Oh my God, this is Overtired. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. I am here. I'm Brett Terpstra. I am here with Jeff Severance Gunsel and Christina Warren and special guest Merlin Mann, one of our favorites. Merlin, how's it going?
It's going great, and you're one of my favorites. I love doing this show. You jerks. Christina rarely deigns to show up when I'm here, which feels important to me. We used to be friends. I remember that.
2 weeks ago, we told everybody that we were going to have an author that I was very excited about on last week. And then within about an hour before the show started, Jeff said he had food poisoning and couldn't do it.
Oh, no.
And then right before the show started,
Literally
Christina
right
said, I have like
I had like
stomach virus. And so I show up and
you have to sit down, Christina.
You had to sit down.
My friend from college, from Alabama, would always say, "I gotta go sit down."
Yeah, I had to sit down for a while. It was real not fun. It was real not fun.
Phrase.
So I show up and Corey shows up and I'm like, we can do this recording, just
Corey
you and
Doctorow?
me. No, his name is Corey O'Brien.
Corey O'Brien.
He's
Definitely
an
not Corey
author.
Feldman.
He's now a cyberpunk author. He's a sci-fi author, but
The book is good.
he said he wanted to do Overtired in its true form with all three of us. So we rescheduled. That's still up and coming. But this week we have Merlin, which is as good, if not better.
Whee!
You're John Moltzing me a little bit.
You Moltzing me? You know, Cory Doctorow, whenever I hear that name, I feel like 25 years younger.
I know.
Why?
I do too. Oh, he was Boing Boing was had such a big influence on me.
Yeah.
And they basically Corey and Andy Baio are the people I personally feel the most gratitude for like promoting my website when it came out. If it wasn't for Corey, I don't know. He's an interesting character, that guy. He's got strong opinions.
He does have strong opinions.
He's still coining new terms. I mean, I hear, and it's weird though, because I wonder if he's annoyed by I am by how many people use inshitification the wrong way. Like it's just become shorthand for people don't like something.
Did he coin everything's computer? Sorry. I really love that.
I still say Waffy a lot.
Waffy?
Really
yeah, I still say that a lot. I think that was from his Magic Kingdom book.
Oh yeah, loved some Disneyland.
Was it down and out in the Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Yeah, no,
well,
but
I'm not an author. I'm the furthest thing from an author, but I'm happy to be here to fill time, and I just want to hear how y'all are doing. Well, did I try? I
enjoyed reading you writing about not writing.
Yes,
it's still work.
It's still writing.
Yeah, someday I want to do a full series of something, either a written thing or probably a podcast thing about the things in life we don't get to choose. Top of the list, you don't get to choose your trauma. If we could all pick our traumas, we'd have cooler traumas. Sexual fetishes.
Cooler. So we've kind of already touched on a place that we all know we're going, but that's the mental health corner. We can make this. We can make so last
a song for it or anything.
Last time I was here, we have talked about. I've always wanted like martini hour music for this, like a real 1950s shrink office kind of thing.
Like a maybe like I'm thinking like a Jobim kind of like.
So historically, when we do this with Merlin, it ends up being 2 hours out of a 2 hour and 15-minute podcast. So we're gonna do our best to like have other topics, but we don't have to because that's part of the reason we bring Merlin here.
Some people would say that you're passive aggressive. I wouldn't say that.
Some people would say.
If it pleases you to be like that, of course I'll just do whatever you want, man. Wow. You learn so much guessing on a podcast in a web browser.
So Merlin, how's your mental health?
Good. How about you guys?
Pass the talking stick.
Good. I'm always not always. I'm trying to make a distinction that might seem sort of It's early here. It might seem like sort of an unnecessary distinction, but I do like to distinguish between what I call mental health and what I would call emotional health. I'm saying that like I'm some kind of like a revolutionary therapist that just invented that distinction. It's just that in the day-to-day of people talking about this, the phrase I hear a lot is mental health. And I don't know why I think I do know why I like the distinction. I think emotional health and mental health are worth thinking about and looking at separately. And like just in terms of my own confession about that, it's like I have to admit, when I hear mental health, I think of things like further on down the spectrum of like the sort of chemical issues that some of us have to some extent or another, all the way down to the chemical issues that some of my dear friends have that make their life nearly unlivable. I think of those kinds of things. Emotional health, boy, that's the key for me. How am I managing stuff in life, and how am I managing or how am I experiencing, to use a word I don't like to use that way, but how am I experiencing my emotions, and what effect is that having? Because as tight as your mental health might be, if you're not managing your emotional health well, and I'm not even saying that's kind of like pushing a rope. Like it's hard. Like how do you decide to feel a certain way? But it's all pretty okay considering. As always, I'm working on sleep. As always, I'm trying to work on just a lot of stuff. I don't want it to be 2 hours long. If you want to go into any aspect, I could do an hour on any aspect of it, but let's just say I'm fine.
Well, since this is Overtired, tell me how sleep's going.
Good. We were talking before about medicine things and pharmaceutical things, and in summary, probably something I've said each time I've been on is I always find it so challenging to balance all these different things. My mom, as ever, is going through kind of a health thing right now. And she's always kind of my poster child for this, where like once you're on Coumadin, once you're on blood thinners, everything gets complicated. And there's no more easy fixes for anything because everything ends up being slightly connected, related, or consequential to other parts of your physical health. So for me, that's always been a balance. I was telling Brett that I have high blood pressure. And so they took me off. So I used to be on real ADHD drugs. And then eventually my shrink whom I love put me on Vyvanse, which is fine. Then after the blood pressure stuff, guess what? Abundance of caution. We need to make sure I can't responsibly hand you anything that has anything with good salts in it if it could cause you to have a stroke or a heart attack. So then I've just been on pilot medicine, which is useless modafinil, like the stuff they give people with work shift disorder,
narcolepsy.
Trucker speed.
It's not. I wish it was trucker speed. It's really just what they give. What it does is it helps you not fall asleep without giving you precisely any like super amount of energy. Plus, it makes me. I want to point out a distinction within a distinction. As Strunk and White have told us, feeling nauseous and feeling nauseated are different things.
Correct.
Okay, just want you to remember that because I'm like that, and this is what I live for, these distinctions, because life matters. But also, being nauseated is not the same thing as throwing up.
Correct.
Being nauseated is feeling like you have to throw up. These things make me throw up almost every day that I take them, and I've gotten used to it, and it's not a big deal. But they really don't agree with me. Anyway, last week I got back on Vyvanse, and the nice thing about that is, and Vyvanse is as these things go, a pretty benign ADHD. I could look it up. It's like there's basically two kinds of
it's
pseudo speed.
It's dexedrine. It's dexedrine, but it has the way that it
is it.
Goes
I don't think it is.
Vyvanse is in the same class as Adderall, but it's got like one molecule removed from Adderall.
It has one different removal. But it's the same core thing. It's the same as dexedrine or Dexo, whatever, which is like the oldest type of amphetamine. But they have one less molecule, and the way that it absorbs in your body is this different, and it has to have like water. Like you can't just like. The way it's supposed to be designed, you can't just snort it. You can't snort it. Yeah. And that's part of why it was designed. The other reason was frankly for patent extension. And the patent expired like 2 years ago.
The delivery mechanism, for your Nexium or whatever. Anyhow, and that has been, I think, a boon in a quarter of a dozen ways. Where, for one, it doesn't really do that much for me, but the prospect of saying like, okay, I'm going to get up. And again, the balance, right? I can't take it. I oughtn't to take it at 11 a.m. because for whatever reason, it has effects on me. I'm kind of grinding my teeth at like 9 o'clock or something like that, even though I haven't.
It has a 16-hour half-life.
Yep.
So what I do is if I get up to urinate, I take it early. But this is going to sound weird, but like I used to really look forward to taking Adderall because it had a huge impact on my ability to feel like I'm running my life. It had side effects too, but that helps. So it ends up being this omnibus project of saying, well, if I want to feel the way I'd like to feel tomorrow, follow me because this is really, really dopey third grade kind of stuff. If I want to feel the way I de minimis level of functioning tomorrow, I'll take a Vyvanse. So when you can take a Vyvanse, I need to take a Vyvanse pretty goddamn early.
Right.
Like what, like 10 or 11? No, earlier.
No,
Like I could take it as early as 4. And like I can still sleep, but I'm looking
Same.
forward to that because then I'm thinking when I wake up, I've got one in the chamber and I'm like, okay, let's do this. I don't know. It's, we sometimes, especially with children, I feel like we try to create, and this is way too big for this topic, but we try to create all these systems of fear and guilt and shame and all the things that make a kid do the right thing because they don't want to feel shame. And like as you get older, you can realize, well, I also have ways to motivate myself. It requires a certain amount of bifurcated self in some ways, the same way that the 1 in the morning me is different from the 5 a.m. me and that kind of stuff. But long story short, I think I have more incentive to try something I wanted to do anyway, which is getting to bed a little earlier and B a little more around the same regular time.
Yeah.
And that helps me.
Yeah. I take Vyvanse for very much the same reasons you are currently on Vyvanse. What was the one we used to take? Both of us were on
a speedy one, or we've both been on Lamictal. Am I allowed to talk about this?
No, there was another ADHD med.
See, there was Adderall, and it wasn't Concerta. It was I was on Ritalin for a time in the early days.
It's another one.
Is it a prescription one?
Yeah, it's in the same category as Ritalin. I forget now. But anyway, like they said that was too bad for my blood pressure, and so they put me on Vyvanse, and then they lowered my Vyvanse dose when I started having insomnia again. And that didn't actually help my insomnia, but because like I was functioning on the lower dose, they kept me on the lower dose.
They kept you on the lower one. Yeah.
I have a half a bottle left of the higher dose, and every once in a while, if I know it's going to be a rough day.
Oh, I was the same way. I'll
take the higher one.
3 that I found in a bag for travel. And I've been off it for, just so we're clear here, we're talking about 2 years.
Okay.
2 years. If I sometimes don't seem as sharp, it's because I'm 58, and also because like I'm just I'm just drinking coffee and trying to say something smart, and it's not always nobody cares, but it's not always so easy. But it's all such a balance, and ultimately, again, we're the project manager for those things, and you don't want to burn too bright and too fast, and it's I don't know. I don't have anything smart to say about it. I keep thinking of a book that I read that I'm not recommending this book, not least because it's out of print, difficult to find, and full of falsehoods, but it is a good read. And that is Albert Goldman's biography of Elvis Presley.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay. And Albert Goldman was this, one doesn't say fabulous, but he was not above enhancing the details of accounts that happened.
Which means his books must be really fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Elvis
like
one is great. It starts out brilliantly. I've been telling my kid about it before he could talk, and finally I found a used copy and bought it, and was like, you got to read the first chapter of this because the first chapter is so great. It's Elvis circa 76, 77, getting ready to go on stage at one of his wackadoo shows where he does, this trilogy at the end and all that. And it's, it's not nice to say, but for the young people, it's Fat Elvis. This is like in the time before he died. And the description of the drug regimen that he had before he would go on stage, really just to get his day going. And you've probably all heard this. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a controlling metaphor for me in some ways. Elvis gets strapped into his corset. He is received barbiturates. He's received uppers. He has received downers. He's received vitamin shots of many different kinds. You get double air quotes there. He gets vitamin shots of all different kinds. He gets, I think, laxatives and stop pooping pills. He got like 70s Imodium title.
You got to cover
Nice.
your bases.
You got to cover all your bases,
Yeah.
including home, if you know what I mean.
Hey, oh,
But I think about that sometimes where like, and forgive my saying, Brett, I wonder if this is something folks who've been through what you've been through over the years go through, where you're like, oh, I got to have this to do that. And then I got to have this to fit. It's like chemical Tetris, where you're like, and then I've got to get this to there. But if I have too much of that, but I got to bring that down. And if I have this kind of alcohol instead of that kind of alcohol, maybe I'll feel better. And like you do all these weird combinations of things, all this basically like personal witch doctoring to try and get yourself to something that feels like homeostasis plus. You know?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel sometimes, even when I'm just like, oh God, I got to get up and take the goddamn thing that makes me throw up. And then I can't really drink coffee because then I'll just throw up the coffee. And I'm sorry, this is gross, but I just want to give you the picture of what you all probably go through in your own way, which is like trying to find the balance, the combination, the internal sort of integrity of a system that helps you be close enough to who you want to be. Some days are better than others.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I don't use illicit drugs anymore. But as far as like the combination, I'm on no fewer than 7 prescription medications. And I do drink alcohol and I do mushrooms, and one slight change in any part of that system can lead to things collapsing. And it is it's a juggling act.
Sometimes if I could say, at least for myself, I'll speak for myself, you don't know how long that collapse is going to be for.
Right.
Like sometimes you're just like, you had an oopsie and it's going to be one of those days. I mean, I do stuff like I'm so weird. I make a monthly set of pill packs when I get my my drugs every month. I use these little wasteful plastic bags, and I do all my pills for like a month so that I can have this. And this is so, I don't know, something, but I finally have gotten to where when I take the drugs, I record that I took them and date them. And then I do a strange thing, which is kind of related to a thing I do with leftovers, which is I write the day of the week on the bag. Yes. So that when I throw it away, if I have this panicky feeling later, did I take these twice? Did I take like I'm probably the only person in the world that has this, but I get panicky. I'm like, I can't have this much gabapentin. I can't have double the amount of gabapentin. That's not wholesome.
Right.
You know, not double the propranolol. That's fine. I can do that.
Have you ever accidentally doubled your Vyvanse? That is a horrible feeling.
I mean, I certainly have doubled something in the past accidentally.
Yeah, I did it once.
You feel
once
like
in recent memory.
You got dosed. Like you're like, well, I'm just gonna have to ride this thing out.
Yeah,
like, go where it takes me.
Yeah, my partner has taken to fill, those like pill containers with the day of the week.
Yep.
And Elle fills those in for me every week because I tend to fall behind, and then I just get into I know what I need to take. I'll just take it. And I generally do a good job of recording it in my apps, but I do have that same panic thing where like, I'm not sure I took it. And maybe I did take it and forgot to mark it.
Did I take 3? Like if you're like me, and let's get to from the emotional to the mental. I don't know which one this is, but sometimes I'll just be like, did I just space this?
Yes.
And do something? And I feel like the way Maria Bamford so wonderfully talks about having OCD. And that feeling of like, I'm going to push somebody onto the subway tracks. I'm probably a sex criminal. Those ideas that go around your head. I sometimes think, then I panic and I'm like, well, how many have I had? And like, it sounds so weird, but like it's, anyways, bags. I can't
wait, I have a system question.
Yes, you.
How much overlap is there between the end of the bags and the filling of the next month? Or do you do it as they run out? You just have a system, you start it?
Well, these are things I take at night that are mostly sleep related. So there's not that usual running right up against it with say Adderall, where it's like you're there at like 9:01 a.m. because like that's when you're allowed to have it, and you feel like you're you're on probation or
criminal.
something.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, those work out
Do
okay.
you put like the individual's date on each bag?
No. They're all identical, and I just drop them in, take a big drink, all good.
The reason I ask is because I've done this thing where like I'll just space where I'm like, did I just take my pills? And I won't. I'm like, did I just do that or not? And then I'll have to go back and like count.
Absolutely.
And then I'll have to like
Oh
count back and see,
no,
right?
that's madness.
Counting in the bottle.
No, it is.
That's
I agree
madness.
with you. I agree with you. What I'm saying though is that my fear would be that if I put them in the bags, I could still have that moment where I'd be like, did I just take that? Did I just open
That's
this
why
or
I
not?
write the day of the week on it.
Okay, well, that's what I was asking. So you do put the day of the week.
After I've taken it, mine are all identical. Okay, this is how dumb I am, and how dumb I encourage everyone to be. I'm going to say two things, and then I'm going to.
How dumb are you?
I'm so dumb. Are you ready for this? Dumb Donald. I need one of those Gene Rayburn stick microphones.
Yes.
Dumb Donald was so dumb. I make these 28 or whatever of these, and I stick them in a little Aiken Mills, Equa Mills bin, whatever that company's called.
Yeah, it's a wonderful company.
A great company. Yeah, great containers. And but no, so I've started because, and I won't need to. Hopefully, I won't need. It is hoped I won't need to do this for the rest of my life. But after I take these, I should write SAT on this. That sounds dumb, but then I'll know, like, as a double backup. And once I get better at that, I won't do that as much anymore. When I put leftovers in the refrigerator in a little bag, I write the day of the week that I put the leftover. See, you're all nodding. The listener will not know this. These people are nodding. Nobody in my house is nodding.
Pyrex lids that have a dial where you set it to the day of the week. You put it in the fridge.
Yeah, look at you, Mr. Nice. Fancy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our refrigerator is a museum. Where food is garbage is cooled.
Yes, I was going to say mine is a thing where like my refrigerator is like great aspirations, both of things that I will cook for myself and things that I will eat. Yes.
Who's going to eat that? It's got carob in it. What aspirational food? Yeah, you got to be kidding me. It's like buying like hokas and keeping them in the attic or something. Like, what are you doing? No, I love my family. But I do like to have some sense of ease and certainty. A lot of ADHD, as I get older and I spend more time with this, my realizations about it become more and more obvious, which I think is a gift. And one of those things is that when you're an anxious person, you're always seeking new information or different information or saliently updated information. I feel like, I'm just speaking generically here, I can't get anywhere near being in the moment if there's a loose end out there that's on my mind. And so I keep seeking information about that loose end. And at least you can feel like the classic Ed Sullivan plate spinning. You could go, well, I did everything I could to keep these 6 plates in motion. The plate that was wobbling, I spun that. Now maybe I get 5 minutes to watch YouTube and not feel like a crazy person. And that is a tough. It's an anti-pattern in this, I think, if I could say, in the sense that it feels like it's helping, but it's not necessarily helping. And sometimes I've tried to learn to incline myself more toward certain, like I've said, I've got this series of things I like to say to myself pretty often. Like, I've got this list I maintain of like good things to say to yourself, to catch yourself and like not go spinning down one sort of hole or another. But I think that's been a tough. I don't know if y'all agree. I'd be curious to hear what you think. But do you ever find yourself like becoming aware that the seeking of new and updated and complete information can become a very unwholesome distraction from just sitting in the moment?
Oh yeah. For me, it's a constant struggle that I have, right? Which is like, what am I missing out on by wanting to be up to date on everything and to like know as much as possible? Like, am I actually understanding a lot of things, or am I just like,
I can't. You can't get out of your inbox because you feel
like
there's always something in there.
There's always something else there that's going to distract you and take you something else. So it's like, how do I do it? And for what's hard for me is that when I was younger, it really did feel easier to be on top of it all. And I don't know if it's aging.
But you could change gears quicker.
Right. Well, and it's not even, I think it was less that I felt like I just had like more of an ability to just like, maybe change gears. Maybe that is accurate, but I felt like it was more of a, like I could get more accomplished. And now I don't know if it's an age thing, if it's slower, or if it's just that,
or if the world sped up,
or if I'm trying to just if I've keep enhancing like the number of things, like I keep adding other things. Like it used to be like this would be one area that I would like try to keep up on, like one
Well,
inbox,
to
and
my
then add in
analogy,
another, and then
you've
another.
unintentionally added another plate
Right.
to spin.
Yeah.
My version of that is it's kind of like doing a clean install on your computer, which I used to do sort of very just out of nowhere. I suddenly needed to do a clean install of my computer, and I have this tendency when I've gathered a lot of information or have a sense that something's not quite right to wipe the slate clean and have to build it up from the start. I have a much better system for that now, putting the computer thing aside, because I did realize that was a red flag if I'm doing that. It's just some general state. But now what I'll do is if I have like a drafts file and I've just like been, it's kind of an omnibus file, and I've been keeping all this information as I build the information, and I realize I no longer have a hold of it. I just open up a second window and I start building it from scratch with the messier version next to it, and then identifying
It takes
gaps.
so many years
you
to
know,
get to where you can be comfortable doing that.
yeah,
it really does.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw in
install.
I'm going to throw in a sponsor read right here, if that's all right with everybody.
Do it.
This episode is sponsored by Incogni, a cutting-edge service designed to safeguard your personal data. Did you know that data brokers collect and sell your sensitive personal information? This leads to unwanted spam, identity theft, and a loss of control over what's shared online. From people's search sites to targeted scams, the risks are real and they're affecting lives every day. But here's the good news. Incogni automates the removal of your personal information from these data brokers. With just a few simple steps, you can create an account, allow Incogni to act on your behalf, and receive progress updates while they work their magic. Incogni automatically contacts data brokers on your behalf to request the removal of your personal data. This seamless process ensures the information is continuously monitored and stays off the market, significantly reducing the risk of spam, scams, and identity theft. I've been using Incogni for at least a year now, maybe longer. And my spam phone calls, my spam emails, everything has been reduced. Searching for myself on the internet no longer reveals my home address, things like that. I have, according to Incogni, been taken off of about 200 lists at this point. So I'm a big fan. You can get an individual account for yourself, or with Incogni's family and friends plan, you can extend the same robust protection to up to 4 additional members. This means your entire family or close circle can benefit from Incogni's vigilant data removal and monitoring service, providing peace of mind for everyone. Take control of your digital privacy now. Visit incogni.com/overtired and secure your data today. Sign up and enjoy a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect your privacy with Incogni and experience peace of mind knowing your personal information is safe. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code OVERTIRED at the link in the show notes, or visit incogni.com/overtired and get 60% off an annual plan. That's incogni.com/overtired. Back to you.
All right, Brett, do you want to talk next, like about
Sure.
some like your mental health corner stuff?
Yeah. Well, my mental health is heavily centers around a recent reorg at Oracle. And because I don't want to talk too much about that, I will make that my mental health corner. A little over a week ago, my manager said, "Hey, you got a sec?" And we Zoomed, and he informed me that I was no longer on his team. I was on the team of someone I had never met, with a bunch of people I had never met, doing things that I was not hired to do. And looking around, it happened to our entire division, like everyone under our VP and like 3 SVPs were all just shuffled kind of randomly into areas that we weren't trained for and weren't familiar with. And everyone, and then you you're trying to get trained on something, so you ask who to talk to, and nobody knows anymore because the person who did that job isn't doing that job anymore, and I can't get access to the things I need to because I'm not in the right department anymore, and it is a clusterfuck. And I have some personality issues with my team that I am working through, but every time I like talk myself down and say, like, you got to not read into that, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, then I talk to them again and it just gets reignited. And so much like passive aggressive behavior and power struggles, and it has not been fun. It has really worn me down, and I've been in like a state of kind of panic about what do I do without this job, because it just doesn't seem tenable. The last couple days, and because I took an increased dose of Vyvanse one of those days, I found myself way more able to navigate this new and terrifying world. And I'm going to talk to my doctor about maybe let's go back up, because that was really helpful. But I've been losing sleep. I've been in a state of panic, and Elle has been out of town, so they can't help me like regulate. I'm a very emotional person, and stuff like this makes me very. I just cycle through like anger and despair and panic, and with even occasional euphoria when something seems like it's going to work out, and then dip, and it's been exhausting.
Yeah.
Also stupid. Why?
Chaotic.
Why would you? This all happened because one person left to go to Amazon.
That's a hell of a gem.
they
Makes it sound like not a very durable,
Yeah.
not a very durable team. If that
very
is the
durable
case.
system.
Well, let's instead of replacing this one guy at the top, let's just shuffle everybody underneath them across the organization.
Was it a power struggle? Were like people wanting to get like control of some other things, like some of the headcount, like, oh, I want this? I mean,
I'm not privy to the tea around all of that, partly because I just don't.
You don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I care about my job and where I land, but it's at some point, one of my managers made me an M4, which at Oracle comes with a whole host of responsibilities. They gave it to me because they wanted me to have room to expand my salary, and I was at like the cap for an M3, but they never made a big deal out of that because I never got the raise, A, and B, it was kind of a symbolic thing. But now my new manager's like, oh, you're an M4, and I don't see in your work record that you've been meeting everything on this. What do they call it? She sent me this like PDF that had a chart of like expectations for the different levels, and she doesn't see that I have fulfilled my requirements to be an M4, so she's going to expect more out of me. And I'm like, I haven't seen a raise in 3 years, so if we can talk about a raise, I'll talk about being an M4.
Right.
But
right. So they gave you the promo because you were at the top of the cap on the other thing, and presumably you would get better bonuses and other stuff there, and better stock compensation there. That's usually how it works. But they didn't give you a salary bump. They just gave you the new title.
Yeah.
That's fucked, man.
Yeah. And the thing that keeps me sane is thinking about going indie again and just being my own boss and working on things I love and doing things I care about. And I kind of failed at that last time around. I ended up with a lot of debt, and things got rough. And I was really grateful to get the corporate gig at that point. And like, I have this rose-tinted view of what it's like to be an indie dev, but also I know I'm not good at like the business side of things, and what I want. So, okay, I'm sorry, this is getting longer than I planned for it to, but in going through the training for some of my new job roles, I had to shadow the people who previously had those roles, and watching them work and the sheer level of incompetence and inefficiency was killing me. In the first 2 days,
that was presented as something you should model. They could be the pros from Dover and come in and say, "Hey, I used to be like you. I had this job. I learned all kinds of things." But when they would like demonstrate those skills, they were not impressive.
They were terrible.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe one of these people had been doing it for like 4 years, and within 2 hours of being given access to their tools, I had cut the hours down to about 10% of what they were spending on it. And like, what I realized,
it's like the guy in Idiocracy who's got to take the specs to the engineers. I know that's cliche, but isn't there an element of that? Sometimes we were like, wait a minute, how much of your job was this one thing that I could do?
Yeah. So what I realized though is that's the job I want, is to go in and tell people how to do their jobs better.
So you want to
and
be
then
consultants?
I want to leave them to do the work.
Yeah.
But me, I'll just make their work suck less. And I just want to be an efficiency expert consultant that goes, especially in publishing workflows, that goes in, gives you, 20% savings or on hours or company expenses, and then moves on to the next company and gets paid bank to do it. Like, that's, if I could carve out a dream job right now, I think that's what I would do. And thinking about that keeps me sane.
The M3 and the M4 are both guns, and
also Max.
Which
I
is
was
funny.
Say I know them as Max because I'm not.
Right. And
that's where my
also,
mind goes.
Just to
or
BMWs.
I
don't know.
I'm talking M4 Ultra, if you know what I mean.
Yes, and to introduce levity that may be disapproved of because it's a comedian that I'm not supposed to quote, but this bit's so good. Is that
Louis C.K.?
Yeah.
Woody Allen.
Oh,
yeah.
Even worse.
I just watched Annie Hall again last week.
Well, and actually, I think this bit. Okay, so the bit was he was classified 4P by the draft board, which means in the case of war, he's most likely to be taken hostage.
Yep.
And so all these things are going through my head, even as I break, my heart breaks for you, Brett, because I know your core, and I remember working with you when you came onto the project I was working on, and how beautiful it was to just like articulate a problem to you, and then you go away and you come back with such a like somehow sensitive solution, which is how a lot of your tools are. They're just very humane. Sensitive and humane. And it's always killed me since you went to Oracle, though I very much understand why you're there. That part of you can't possibly be recognized. Or valued if it was recognized or understood somehow.
Okay,
right?
So a team at Oracle that I don't work on and didn't at the time, they heard through the grapevine that I was good at like Markdown and scripting.
I remember
stuff.
this. Yeah, this is a good example of something different. Yeah,
and they came to me and they asked me to automate the process of converting Confluence documentation to GitHub flavored Markdown. And I loved that project.
Somebody knows why they hired you.
I spent maybe 20 hours on that project. They said I saved them over 1,000 hours of time they would have spent on this. And then they shared that solution with other docs teams. So that number went up exponentially. But when my review came around, I didn't get to list that because it was technically unauthorized time at my job that I spent doing something that was very beneficial to the company, but that it wasn't part of my job description, which kind of killed me. But
is there, and that's such bullshit. I remember when you told me it's just such a terrible like way the system works in these corporate things about what you're rewarded for and what you're not. Are there any other teams? Like, I think that the consulting thing I think is great, and I'm glad that's kind of keeping you sane, because I think that's a thing to think about, because I think maybe if you found like a right partner or somebody to work with on that, like that could be like a real opportunity for you to frankly even like work at Oracle as a potential client. There are like a lot of avenues, places you could, but before you get to that point, I mean, they keep reorging you and making changes to you, and that's so shitty, especially when you're being told, oh, you're not meeting these expectations, but you might not even have been told what they are. And two, when you're not being compensated in a way that makes you want to, follow whatever they're setting out. I've definitely been there. But I do wonder, like, you've met these other teams and some people who've done stuff. Like, are there any other places that you might be able to go that potentially
maybe
better?
I should ask around. My first year, when I actually had managers that I liked and that seemed to care about my success, they would keep an eye on other teams and let me know, like, so and so like does this and has heard of you and would love to work with you, so if you ever want to switch teams, contact this team. So I went through all of those contacts that I had been given my first year. Every one of them was no longer at Oracle.
No.
The turnover rate is, there's quite the churn rate on Oracle and Oracle positions. So I would be starting from scratch looking. So it's possible. And honestly, it's going to be my first avenue. I'm not just going to quit my job and try to be a freelancer again. But
woof.
Let me ask a question, if I may. I'm listening. I'm processing this somewhat phonetically. It's a little bit out of my depth, but you described how you had a person you work with or for who gave you more responsibility, made you this M4. Is that right? And then, so they've worked with Brett. They know Brett, and in some ways, that M4 promotion, it would be nice if it had money associated with it, but it was kind of a way of that person saying, like I trust you and I think you're great at stuff, and like this is the only way you're going to move up is I give you kind of like I give you this title.
Exactly.
And then you went and you were an M4 for somebody else, and it sounds like they didn't know you as well, probably, and had a specific idea about what an M4 does that might be detached from who Brett is.
Yep.
That's strikes me as being something worth noting, right? Is that, I mean, there's so much economy of scale that people try to derive out of doing things the same way, and company stuff, and like that all makes sense. I understand that. There's a reason we mow our lawn in rows instead of just spinning the lawnmower around. But is that part of the frustration? I wonder. I'm projecting here, but that you go and it's the same Brett, same title, but different expectations based on what that person needs out of an M4.
This is my 9th manager in 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And every time it's what you describe. Every time.
Somebody 2 levels above that should think that's weird.
Yeah. Well, but that's true for everyone.
Everyone
I know.
Somebody 2 levels should go, how many of these have we had?
I had 12 managers in 5 years at Microsoft. So like
that 2 levels above, they're also switching around. It's a mess. But
wow.
Anyway,
sorry, Brett.
That's okay. Jeff,
don't say that. That's the Midwestern thing. That's okay. It's very much not okay. But I love you. That's God. How am I? Got to follow that opening act. I'm good. I really liked the distinction between mental health and emotional health. I feel like mental health is depending on the context, has a little shame attached to it, but also can just be kind of a wall that I hit when I'm thinking about it. But emotional health feels more fluid and inviting a little bit, and more dynamic, and feels like it has fewer sort of rules. When you enter into conversation, I know that like mental health conversations can kind of turn into war stories pretty quickly, and not get at the stuff that's here, right? I don't mean in this podcast, I just mean in general. I think it's a little bit more of an invitation. Okay, so I'm good. I am my life is in sort of 2 parts. I am constantly reading, and I'm not going to talk about news, but I'm constantly reading and taking in news. I never want to talk about it, in part because we are in this moment where language has been both weaponized and neutralized, right? Like when I try to put words in conversation, or if I feel like I want to write 10 words about the thing, I got nothing. And that's never been the case for me. That's how I like writing. Even a few words is how I bridge to whatever is like burning in me. And that kind of ends up being a little bit of a release, or sort of a meaningful thing. And so that's been hard. But the other part of me is just totally immersed in the things that either give me joy or give people I care about joy, that are fun to talk about, that are discoveries. I'm always a little like that, but I've found that it's not even like I'm hiding in that. It's like it's become something that is even brighter to me. And that's been really, really fun. And just a really like trite example of that is something that I would not expect to come out of my mouth, which is the band name Primus, which is not a band. Exactly. Not a band I like. I liked one album in its time for a minute, but I've never had an emotional response to that band. I appreciate anybody who is sort of that narrow and yet experimenting inside of such a narrow box. I really appreciate that. I don't relate, but I super appreciate it. But they recently lost their drummer, and not death, but left.
Okay.
And they decided they needed a new drummer. And so they put out a call on the internet. 6,100 people posted videos of themselves, including the drummer of my son's band, who posted a video that I think was just him banging the snare drum, which was really awesome. But they narrowed it down to like 10 people, and they made these little like 30-minute mini docs of each audition. And it starts with Fred Armisen playing as a fake drumming YouTuber, always, and then they go into bringing these drummers in. It is really earnest and really sweet, and the people who come in have a love for Primus that I can't relate to, but I super appreciate, because it is a passion, and I really love people's passions, especially now. Curiosity and passion, maybe the two greatest things. Like a lack of it, two of the saddest things. And it's amazing because they do the same thing every time. So every Friday, one of these drop. Every Friday I watch Severance, and I watch the new episode of the Primus Intergalactic Drum Derby, is what they call it. And it's everything from like these seasoned grizzled drummers to this, like the last one was this 27-year-old kid, and then these two guys, the guitar player and the bass player, and they're just figuring it out together. They do a little free jam, then they ask the guy what song they want to play. The guy plays the songs, drum parts that never spoke to me, but it's amazing to watch people who have been working on them for weeks come in and do it. There's just chit chat, there's like behind the scenes interviews, and most of all, like if you've been in a band, like it is amazing to me. The older I get, I don't care who the band is, if I see that you've somehow managed to find a long arc, a way to a long arc, and you still seem like you've got your head together and you're happy, which I can't truly judge. But these two guys, Les Claypool and I can't remember the guitar players, they've just been through it together, and here they are in this, like, it's such a small group, it's a trio, right? So it's like the two of them and then a new ingredient every week.
Wow.
And seeing how they talk about it, and especially this last episode, which I really recommend. This was this 27-year-old who was so sweet, full of energy, by far their favorite drummer so far. And it was amazing to watch the two grizzled guys not only playing out, but then talking about how they couldn't look at him without smiling. Like they found him so delightful and such an infusion of sort of light. And so watching that happen every week, and it's always basically the same songs in the same format, but it's just, as a musician, I guess, and as a drummer especially, really lovely. And then I go really dark and watch Severance. But that has been really nice, and has just like been one of those examples of like just kind of helping me connect with like light and brightness, even as and it helps me to take in all the darkness. And then the last thing, which I won't, I just recommend people go to, is I just binged a blog for the first time in like 20 years. It was Nick Cave's blog. Nick Cave, who I've loved forever, has a blog where he answers readers' letters and questions. And he does so with such an incredible depth and grace and humor. And one of them is I'll put a link in the show notes, is a letter from some children in a school in like Corsica, who ask him about his grief and the death of his two boys, and then ask him, you're weird, you're dark, we like that, but are you ever happy? And then he responds, and it's been beautiful. And it's been so long since it was with food poisoning, actually. I opened that blog laying in bed and ended up reading like, a whole, like, I don't know, maybe 15 posts.
Did you watch the documentary that came out maybe 2 years ago?
I haven't yet, because I can't. This is the one that's in the immediate wake of him losing his
Mm.
second son or his, I can't do it.
And it's intense. It's really good though.
So this is a great way he touches on it. The kids ask him about the grief, and hearing him process in a few paragraphs like that is really something that's been amazing to take in. So I'm also apparently he did like a 30-minute interview with Stephen Colbert that I've not watched.
Oh yeah, I saw that come up. It looked,
it sounds like it's a pretty incredible thing, but I haven't
seen
it yet. Anyway, so just kind of like letting that stuff in or finding that stuff has been just a huge support.
Absolutely.
Fucking Nick Cave too, really. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
I
just saw him a few years ago.
I don't want to derail it, but I just would like to say I totally agree. And I'm trying to do something along similar lines, I think, both for myself and hopefully for other people. And I mean, I would go into that if you ever wanted to, but I agree with you. There's so QED, we were talking earlier about, at least to this ADHD adult brain, that sometimes seeking out some kind of a certainty. Like, why do we check our inbox? Well, we check our inbox because there could be a bomb in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't go back to what I'm trying to do, and as long as I think there's something out there that could get me somewhere. I mean, that's what are you anxious about? Nothing and everything. That's what anxiety is. If I was worried about something specific, it would be fear and it would be manageable. But I think there's, I don't know. See, I don't mean to be critical. It's a really, really, really hard time for almost everybody. Some people more than others. And but I sometimes, I don't know. I always want to kind of check my privilege on this. I don't ever want to seem like I'm making light of something that's very, very serious. But there's also a fact that I've got to keep in mind, which is you'll always find something worse. And you'll always find something more terrible. And you'll always find something to remind you that you aren't up to date on the stuff that you should be worried about. There are certain publications, including one to which I subscribe, based in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
They're located in Times Square, if that helps at all.
Yeah.
That I feel like has really gone into the business of keeping you off balance, making you feel like a lack of balance is what's the only thing out there. The only way to keep your head above water is to constantly be reminded of a thing that you should be more worried about. And then on top of it all, to subtly give you the impression that they're the only people who can pull you out of the information morass that has you so sad and confused. And whatever, it's a living. And so just to be clear, I'm not trying, there's a lot of things I just don't say in public, because you can't control how it's going to land with people. And you never want to be horrible with people, but there's not as much durability or longevity or substance to a bad time as it feels like. Not least because it's constantly turning into another bad time in one way or another. You can't beat that. Like you can't, just because things are extra super bad right now, the lesson to draw from that is, I mean, just to get it out of the way, is not that you should, distract yourself and bury your head in the sand and all that stuff. Let me come back to that later if we have time. But there is this sense that, like, you're not a serious adult if you're not always just a very sad tomato. And if you're not always finding some way, and like part of my beef with this is that people are not succeeding at finding a way to get their own head above what's happening, because it's all horrible. But then we also kind of encourage each other and we egg each other on to be sad sacks. And like every social media network I join that seems like a world of possibility for a few weeks eventually reverts to the mean. And it just all comes back to like obvious jokes about the Orange Man, which I can't do anything about. I can't do anything about the Orange Man. I can't do anything about the jokes. I can't do anything about the deliberately horrible way. And I mean, that's just one aspect of a terrible world. But, that word durability, there's these words that come up, and I probably sound like Tom Peters or something: durability, longevity, integrity. These terms that are very meaningful for me, because, I mean, I feel like it's not so much that I'm trying to purely distract myself by listening to music from the 18th century or by watching a 4-part TV show about how terrible the world is. What's that?
Vivaldi's heavy metal.
Actually, I'm in an app right now called Vivaldi. So I don't know. I don't have, this is not anything I processed to the point where I can say anything intelligent about, but I will say this is the, like, you don't make it better when you keep cutting yourself or whatever. When you keep just pushing everything to make yourself feel constantly on the edge of completely, like, coming apart at the seams.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the only rational thing to do. And maybe it is. I take a different point of view, which is like, what are the things that are durable? Not just in terms of being like the thoughts of great men and stuff like that. Adolescence, this TV show on Netflix, is an unbelievably
This is what I
durable.
hear.
It's an unbelievably durable thing. And like, and the thing I said to someone I co-host a podcast with, where we will be talking about this, is to use an old phrase that I first heard associated with Greek trauma, in ancient times. It's cathartic, which is, it enables you to sort of identify and feel these feelings that are often just kind of inchoate and bothering you and just a little bit of a mosquito bite sort of feeling. But part of it could be, maybe you're doing opera, you're doing Grand Guignol, you're doing all these different kinds of theater and media that or maybe watching slasher movies for that matter. Or Jesus watching The Pit, where like poor Noah Wiley, which I don't care for, but like Noah Wiley, like wandering around in plastic being traumatized. And you're like, oh, I can finally feel something. But like, it's just that I don't know. I don't know. See, I feel really bad even saying anything. I should come back to this topic when I have something more confident to say about it. It makes me very, very sad that so many people in their own understandable, private, understandable ways have developed. Fun fact. Does anybody know what the original title of Annie Hall was?
No, God damn it. I did know though.
The original title of Annie Hall is anhedonia, which is a term for the inability to experience joy.
Wow.
And I feel like there is a kind of chronic anhedonia that's happening now that doesn't even feel treatable. It feels counter-revolutionary. It feels it's difficult to describe, but I as somebody who accidentally got a background in the liberal arts, I cannot stop myself from noticing the durable ways that our world is still connected. The durable, long-lived ways that our world is still connected, that it's related, that it's grokkable, and that there are instances of art all around us that give us the opportunity to feel real feelings instead of the one that just happened to arrive in the post this morning. And I'm not trying to fix anything, but like, and sometimes it's just like, fucking, you guys got to watch this King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard performance.
King Giz, Liz
I know
Wiz.
I talked about it a lot, but like,
I just watched their Minneapolis performance. It was unbelievable.
They put stuff up pretty, but they do this one song on KXP. They do this song, There's Iron Lung, and I happen to think it's one of the, probably my favorite live rock performance of all time. If you, again, let's just privilege, if you've played in a band, watch this and realize how much harder this is than it looks, and yet they make it look so easy. Like, well, okay, but like, don't I need to get back to seeing what the New York Times says I need to be slightly differently worried about this afternoon? And I'm not trying to be glib, and I'm not trying to say, feelings are real, pain is real, all these things are real, but like, you still have agency. You are allowed to look beyond the terror that's in front of your eyes and barely in focus for a minute before it gets replaced by something else. You're allowed to notice other things in the world.
I would like to offer.
You're allowed to derive and then share a feeling of humanity in art that has outlived the worst things in people of all time. And we can't just throw that baby out with the bath because of how it's going right now.
Because you can't throw babies out. You shouldn't do that.
Well, you should at least, you lose the deposit on it.
I would like to offer a suggestion that nobody will take and we don't have to talk about, but I have switched.
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
I have switched from reading the Times and the Post and all of those to reading anarchist publications, because anarchists don't take that partisan view where everything the Republicans have done is bad and the Democrats are weak and they're not keeping up. Like, they take more of an overhead, like, all politics are bad.
Right. I was going to say, but isn't their thing just all of this should be burned to the ground?
Not necessarily. That the idea is that a better world is possible. And yes, maybe things have to burn to a certain extent before that better world is possible, but that's not a requirement. Like, they focus on humanity and beauty and art and and see the inherent violence of government as the problem, and not that one party is in
it's a
power.
power problem. It feels like a governance problem because we're so used to seeing that pretty A spray painted on things. It's not really. It's secondarily or tertiarily a governance problem, but it's ultimately a power problem, which really does connect for me.
Yeah, and I find a lot of comfort in reading from that perspective, and not getting my news like this up to the minute. Oh my God, this executive order just came through, and now these people are all fucked. And like, yes, that's happening, and yes, it sucks, and I don't need to be riveted by that progression. But anyway,
can I be a bridge to Christina?
Yeah.
Out of this,
I love
there's
that
just
book.
a couple things. My great a bridge to Christina.
Christina Terabitha, I think.
Okay, I'm sorry, that book fucked me up so much as a child. All of her books did.
I didn't read it. My kid did, but I haven't read it.
The Bridge to Terabithia.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it.
It's the most
called A Bridge to Christina.
No, God, no. It's actually an incredible. I'll talk about it in my next thing, but go on.
Well, okay, two things. One, my favorite anarchist I ever knew. We were in the laundromat together in Chicago, and we were waiting for my laundry, I think, to dry. And there was a laundry folding table with a sign that said "Do not sit." And we're talking casually, and I got up and I sat on the table, and he goes, "Dude, get off the table." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "If we could follow each other's rules, we wouldn't need police."
Exactly.
I'm gonna quote myself. Something I said pulled totally out of my ass on our Monday recording with Roderick. And I said it, and I'm like, that sounded pretty smart. But I keep thinking about it. It's not laws that keep it safe. It's people observing laws that keep it safe.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I was like,
totally. That's great.
Then
that's great.
Then you have the whole idea of anarchist calisthenics, which is the idea of if there are no cars in the street, it's still technically illegal to walk across the middle of the street. But by doing so, you prepare yourself for a time in the future when there may be an unjust law that you do need to break. So you practice these anarchist calisthenics, but you pick and choose what laws actually benefit people, what laws actually keep people safe. And those are the laws worth following. And then laws that are ridiculous or unjust, you build up the willpower to break.
Holy shit. So you just created entirely new meaning for something that I've always kind of laughed about, which is I was in Germany and it was late at night and I was standing with some people at a crosswalk, but the light was red.
This is exactly what this is.
And
where
I
it came
crossed
from.
the street and the Germans at that stoplight were like, "Hey, what the fuck?" Like, and I was like, "Why is no one here?" And then you're saying this, and I'm like, "The Germans of all people."
Yeah. So the term anarchist calisthenics came from an article about exactly that, where people were queued up at a stoplight when there were no cars coming, and there was this like mob mentality of like, it is against the rules to break this particular law. And this one guy started like just testing the waters and got a lot of flack from the people around him. I don't remember what country it was in, but that's exactly where the term came from.
The very last thing is just tying up Merlin's thing, I think, and then Christina, I promised I'm done. In terms of range of emotion, I think this both speaks to what you were talking about just now, but also the emotional health thing. I was doing a profile many years ago of a forensic anthropologist. He actually kind of like pioneered the techniques for digging up mass graves. And I spent 3 days in his house and talking to him about his craft. And he had a picture on his wall, and it was in Guatemala, and they were exhuming a mass grave. You couldn't see that; you could just see the pit, taken from his perspective, but kind of left the pit out. And then, people who had relatives maybe in there, all the generations were sitting around on lawn chairs, and some were staring, just blankly. Someone was eating ice cream. A little girl was laughing. And I asked him, I said, tell me about this. What is this? Because I guess what I expect when I'm looking at this is just strictly horror and trauma or the waiting for it, right? And he said the thing that is most remarkable about being in these situations is that when you're somewhere where something so horrible is literally being exhumed, every single human emotion is accessible. Every single human emotion. And I just like it's haunted me ever since. Kind of a beautiful haunting. but Merlin, when you were talking, it just kind of came to mind. We can let that in.
I want Christina to talk, but
Yeah,
I have a
Christina.
lot to say.
Go
No,
ahead.
go on.
No, it's not necessary.
No. Go on.
Gosh, we're not letting the smart one talk.
No, please, you're fine.
I just met a girl named Christina. That's not really true. I met her long ago on a show.
Ooh, on a shoe? In a shoe.
On a shoe. Say it soft and it's almost like praying. But fuck, I don't know. Here's the thing. I get this. I get this. I understand. I'm trying to say I understand that I get things less because it sounds condescending, but I understand why people are how they are. I understand, I think, to an extent, how I am. I'm just going to say this and I'm going to run away. I'm just going to light it and run away because I do not have any evidence for this. I don't have a persuasive theory. I could not debate this with John Craig Syracusa to any effective level, but
that's a tall order.
In my adult life, I've never felt the necessity of vulnerability as much as I do right now. Every fiber of most of us, of our bodies, our mind, our emotions, our mental state is telling us to toughen up, and is telling us to never lose an argument, and is telling us to like, okay, so at that point, let me just trail off there and say, isn't it wild how terrible everyone can be to each other no matter what? We know how much people on at least on my side of the aisle love to go after each other. And that's just the way that we do it. That's why we couldn't get things done for 30 years. And then we finally got together on some things. And then we decided that that was a bad strategy. And now we reject it all. Everybody, people are trying so hard to become invulnerable emotionally, physically, psychically, religiously, like however you look at it, vulnerable. And it's making people real stupid and real short-sighted. And this is why I'm lighting it and running away. Just call it privilege, call it what you want. I've never felt the need for vulnerability more in my life because I have found at much personal cost, the vulnerability is where growth is. Vulnerability is where you are. Invulnerability is trying to create a world of things around you that aren't you. You're like the Soviet Union invading the Latvian Baltic countries to create these satellite countries, and like, we'll never lose another drop of blood on Soviet soil. And that's you. That's all of us when we try to create these rings of invulnerability. And listen, man, I don't even know where to begin. Like, if you're in a terrible relationship with somebody that's abusing you, like, I'm not trying to steal valor from any of the real stuff, but you know what? There's always been real stuff. There will always be real stuff. There will always be terrible, terrible, terrible people and things that you can do nothing about. So where are you in all of that? At length, how long are you prepared to be the equivalent of like an NPC in your own little game, where like you have just become yet another person who's running through cross lights when people say it's okay to cross, that is, or really just feeling things when we're told to feel it. And then because part of it is the only kind of comity, the only ways that we get a lot of community, especially online, which is life. What's the quickest way to bond with somebody? Dentist office, jury dude. What's the quickest way to bond? Find something you both hate. Maybe it's the room you're in. Maybe it's that nasty receptionist. But like, you'd be amazed how many people from any side of the aisle, people in pink and blue or red and blue or green and red or whatever, can bond over something that they both hate, because the clarity of something that we hate is a strong word. The clarity that we feel about something that we consider an intolerable situation, that's an opportunity that where two people on a bus can talk about the same. That's sometimes it feels like that's all we've got now, is the thing that we can both hate for a little while. And I'm just saying, I'm finding a lot of, if not power, I'm finding more of myself in vulnerability than I'm finding myself in this world of people that are basically like parking lot bollards, just trying to keep anything from getting through their perimeter. And they're so unhappy, and the trajectory for their future emotions is not promising right now. And they're uninterested, not disinterested. They're uninterested in it because keeping up the bollards that make that vulnerability feel real are so important. But you're not invulnerable. You're not even that strong. You're just puffing yourself up and trying to feel like nothing affects you. And man, I don't see, again, I'm lighting it and running away, but there's a lot of stuff, if you chose to, there's a lot of stuff that you can find pretty near the end of your nose that will remind you that every single one of us is a human being that's only here for a little while, that we only have so much to offer, but we have so much to gain. We have so much to learn. We have so much to share. We have so much to pass on to each other in our humanity. I wouldn't normally bust a gut like this, except I think there's probably somebody who needs to hear that. And if you have the courage of being your own self, or the courage of your convictions, or however you look at it, you don't have to tell a single person in the world, but learn to get a little bit more vulnerable. Maybe that means don't be afraid to cry while you're watching Doctor Who. Like, I don't know. Maybe that means, but you know what that could mean is like there's some kind of a tent pole piece of bullshit in your life that you think is keeping the roof up, that's actually making your room very crowded with all the different columns of certainty and sureness, and you've got it all figured out, and you're so fucking mad, and everything has to be about everything. And that's not going to work for 20 years. When are you going to start becoming a human being again? What will it take for you to feel like you have permission to be a human being again and to feel vulnerability? Because that's what you are. If you're a human being, you are step zero. For now, you're alive. You're going to be dead a lot longer than you've ever been alive. I don't know, man. I'm trying to avoid getting into examples that would make people roll their eyes, but there's a lot of stuff at hand. You have everything you need to become a human being today. And it can save you a whole lot of overhead, and it will not protect you from anything. But I defy a lot of people to tell me what they are successfully protecting themselves from right now. I don't think it's working.
Runs away.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. Yeah.
Well,
you should watch Adolescence. It's really good.
On
Christina,
that note,
there's another opening act you got to follow. I just had to follow Job.
I'll bridge this for you. If it's cool, I'll do the other ad read.
Yeah.
And then you can start with kind of a clean slate.
Sure.
Or we could just keep this bit up where Christina never gets to talk at all.
Honestly,
yeah.
We're fine. I'm fine with that.
Let me stop you there.
So this episode is also sponsored by one of our favorite developers, Rogue Amoeba, makers of powerful audio software for the Mac.
Rogue Amoeba. What a dumb company.
Oh, they specifically said in the ad read that we're not allowed to raspberry them. No, but seriously, we love Rogue Amoeba.
I got you.
Rogue Amoeba.
Swinging. Just look down.
They've been developing audio-focused apps for the Mac for over 20 years, going all the way back to iOS 10.2, which is Jaguar, if you've forgotten.
Jaguar.
Their latest versions make it a snap to get started with no need to even restart your Mac. I personally love SoundSource and Loopback, and I use them all the time. SoundSource puts per-app audio controls, including the ability to apply effects right into your menu bar. And Loopback is an amazing app for routing audio signals and working with multiple audio devices. And I would be remiss, of course, to not praise Audio Hijack, which everyone in the podcasting community is familiar with, the all-purpose tool for recording and routing audio on your Mac. It can do just about anything with application audio or microphone input, and it has a ton of automation possibilities. Learn more about all of Rogue Amoeba's software at macaudio.com/overtired. That's macaudio.com/overtired. Listeners of Overtired can save 20% off any purchase through the end of May with the coupon code Overtired. Just go to macaudio.com/overtired and use the coupon Overtired. Now, Christina, over to you.
Can I hang on? Can I talk about why I was being silly there?
Yeah, of course.
No. Yes, of course.
It's one of my favorite companies.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite companies, not simply because they make so many applications that I use every day, much like stuff you make, Brett, stuff that I use for my work, but like they super care about their users in a way that really shows. Again, QED, I don't like to make things negative, but Apple over time, in the interest of purportedly of security, has made it a lot more frustrating to do very powerful things with your Mac. And Rogue Amoeba has been every step.
Neutered it. Let's just say it. Let's just call it what it is.
They've tried. They've at least, I don't know if they cut them off, but they've definitely hidden them beneath some sort of genital burqa. But Rogue Amoeba is there every step of the way, trying to make things as easy as possible and dependable as possible for their users. And they get my official okie dokie, except for Paul. I don't like Paul personally. Go Birds.
No, they're great people. They're great people. Okay. I don't have that much to really, I guess, kind of like add to the discourse. Certainly not anything like important. But when we're talking about vulnerability, when we're talking about other things and I guess ways of like getting in with your emotions. I'm so sorry. This is such a weird segue to go back to. I'm going to go back to Merlin's like Bridge of Terabithia joke. That book fucked me up so much as a kid, but it is like an incredible book. The movie will fuck you up too, but none of you have ever read it.
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay, so
I
it's
heard
like
the movie's not as good.
I mean, the movie is actually good, but like it's hard. So it's a children's book-ish. I guess it's what we used to be able to call. I call like young adult, but like now like has a different connotation. But like middle readers, right? Like I think I read it in elementary school, but you could definitely. It's well written. It like one like whatever the equivalent of the Pulitzer is for like children's literature. Like
Caldecott
yeah,
or
Caldecott. Like it won that. And the author, she was like in her 40s, and it was I guess kind of like she'd been like a missionary, and then she started writing like later in life, publishing, and like every single book she released was like incredibly well received critically and commercially, and her books have also been subject of book bans, which is ridiculous. But the story is about like these two kids who are like 11 years old, like a boy and a girl, and it like takes place in like the 70s in like West Virginia or something, or near the DC area, so maybe regular Virginia, and kind of growing up together, and they kind of create this world together they call Terabithia, where they're just kind of playing, but it's this coming of age story, and I will get emotional even saying it. Let's just put it this way. There is like the ending, like it is one of the most tragic things like you will ever read. And the fact that like it's a children's book, holy shit, it fucks you up, but like in a really good way. And then the backstory is that she wrote it basically, it was in some ways based on like a real thing that happened to her actual son. And so it was like her way of like dealing with her grief to
Wow.
to write about it. But it's just it's an incredible book, and it's like one of those things like I think about it sometimes, like when we think about like I don't know, it's just about feeling things like vulnerability, like that is actually like weirdly for reading like a children's book. But she wrote like I guess higher level stuff too.
But
She
it's okay. You've got permission, right?
oh
It's
no
a
totally,
kid's
but I'm
book.
saying no, but
No. But I'm saying it's different from like what you're allowed to have a surprisingly strong feeling about in adulthood normally. That's why I say Doctor Who. If I watch Day of the Doctor, my favorite episode of Doctor Who, I'm going to cry 3 different times. This is known. But right, isn't that part of it though? Is it'll catch you kind of off guard sometimes? Like a real feeling will hit you from a place you didn't expect.
Right. No, but I was just kind of thinking that, right? But like, she's still alive. She's 92, Catherine Peterson.
Wow.
Good for her. Yeah, and no, she won. I guess like the Newbery or whatever, like for Bridge of Terabithia and for Jacob Have I Loved, and then she won the National Book Award twice as well. And then she got like, I mean, she basically got like every book you could like every award like you could kind of get like in her like throughout the 70s. And she didn't write that many books, but like the ones she did write were all like fucking bangers that will break your heart emotionally and just be like fuck you up. But Bridge of Terabithia, which was published in 77, so like it became a movie, and the movie is pretty good. But the funny thing about the movie is that Walden or whoever like distributed it, they wanted to kind of sell up the fantasy aspect of the whole thing, and there's not really one. And so imagine a bunch of parents taking their kids to see a book that they think is kind of going to be like Narnia and having a very different kind of ending.
Right.
Like a sort of ending that like you might
You think
not.
it's Lord of the Rings, but it's actually Old Yeller.
It's actually My Girl.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's the spoiler I'll give. So like, but yeah, it's actually like My Girl.
Ugh.
So, but like holy shit. So yeah, you're like, oh, this is gonna be this great family fun film, and then you're like, I've just had my like heart ripped out of my stomach. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah,
That seems like it's in both places.
Anyway, that was just a weird segue. But
we were talking about vulnerability.
yeah, exactly. And I was gonna say that, and it made me think that I was kind of one of those funny things, because I was like, God, like that's the sort of like shit that like, holy wow, Anyway.
My lizard died. a little bit ago.
Shit.
And this is just wildly apropos of nothing except of everything. But he died. I buried him, blah, blah, blah.
Sorry.
Thanks. But the point is that, I've got those, I got a smart home, and like one of the things that we have done to take care of him is we have an Eve power strip that's got like, it's really nice. It's got 1, 2, 3, you can like, they're programmable and like they give you data on like how much wattage was used, and Eve makes great stuff. And I love that power strip. I buried the lizard, which is not a euphemism. And I thought, that's a really nice power strip I grabbed one day for his vivarium. I should get that back. And I went and I unplugged his power strip. And the power strip, it does his UV light, does his heat lamp, and it does the rock that he liked to lay on. And for some reason, unplugging that power strip made me cry, really somewhat uncontrollably, which I didn't mind. Like I like when emotions come out because I'm okay with being vulnerable, like all cocks. But that's the reason I mentioned that here is like, you don't know where it's going to come from. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I've got a lizard. People think that's weird. He's spiky. Syracuse doesn't like him. He died. That was sad. There was a whole lot of sad. There was just a big bummer. The way that we found him was, bad. And, but it was unplugging in addition to those, not like,
right.
Not in lieu of, but
in addition to those, unplugging a power strip from the wall hit some part of my brain.
Right.
And I have to tell you, it's a part of my brain. This is why I have no tolerance for most people as human beings. I have no problem at all understanding that there's a part of my brain, let's just call it, I don't know, the creative crucible or the humanity engine. But there's some part of my brain where humor and sadness are very close to each other. What's humor? Humor is about surprise. So it's kind of a similar feeling to a good joke you didn't expect, or catching yourself doing something that's funny by the way, because of how you are, and you laugh to yourself and go, God, I'm so funny. I'm such a ding-a-ling. It's just that one, I wasn't laughing with myself. I was crying with myself. Yeah. It's so ironic that me unplugging this smart thing that I'm going to go and reset and reuse for different things, that's what had me feeling this strong emotion. And can I just say, I'll just cover myself with glory here. I don't think that's the kind of feeling we encourage ourselves to feel when we're trying to approach invulnerability. In fact, I think most of us would say that's the kind of bullshit that we need to get out of our life so we can be strong like Bolt.
No.
Just tossing it out there. But that's a Buddhist gift. When you get a little moment that makes you a little sad because you thought about a book, Christina, I would argue there's a good chance you're still alive.
It's true. It's true. It's a good point. And I think you make a good point too. Like there are those things where like like we put on the strong face, we put on the, the grim and bear thing. And then you are, and you maybe even, you think you've dealt with like a thing, and then you're faced with a decision, which seems completely innocuous. You're unplugging a power cable and then you're realizing, why am I doing it?
Like you're driving by a dead person's favorite restaurant for the first time. Like whatever, there's those kinds of things where you're like, I thought I'd taken care of everything, but I still have feelings.
Yep. Yeah. Which is good because to your point, we need that. Otherwise, like we lose our humanity. And I think that's so important when there's so many genuinely terrible things happening to like remind ourselves, because for me, it's important for me to do it because I'm glad that like Brett finds comfort in reading anarchist like stuff. That would not provide me any comfort at all. So I wouldn't bother with it. It would just make me angry. But if it provides you comfort or makes you gives you good things, like I want people to do like what's best for them. For me though, like I'm having a really hard time because I'm still in this phase with anything news related where I'm just kind of in I don't want to look at it. I don't want to engage with it. I can't deal with it. Like I don't have
It's so stupid. Everything is, I called it dumb 1935. It's like dumb 1935 all over America right now. No, it's as concerning as 1935, just even dumber.
Agreed. But where I'm at, and in some cases it's a good thing because I am like protecting myself and I'm like, getting myself to a certain thing, but I'm trying to be careful because like I don't want to become so like nihilistic that I just don't, that I'm just at the point where I'm like, fuck it, burn it all. I don't give a shit. We're going to be dead anyway. What does it matter? Like, I don't want to become that far removed, but at the same time, I can't actually find myself to care. like I can't engage because I care too much. So it's one of those things like, you know, I think it's important for us to be able to remind ourselves that there are things we can feel emotion about that like feel not controllable, but feel like, I don't know, tangible in a way. Whereas everything else, it's like I have all these feelings, but there's literally nothing I can do about any of them, and I don't want to. Like it doesn't do me any good to you know keep up with what's happening, or no, not keep up, engage. Doesn't do
Well,
me
and
any good
like,
to
how much
engage with
did you
what's happening.
benefit from learning there's 3 more terrible things today? Or a way I put it that's is a little blunt by design, when you find out about the next horrible thing or the next 5 horrible things, what'll you do differently this morning?
Right. Right.
Which I think is a question we don't ask ourselves often enough. We don't need to be asking that question all the time.
Right.
There's nothing we need to be doing all the time except breathing and shitting. But like, don't we need to occasionally say, I mean, like for me, because it's this whole stack for me of like, I think about, you know, sort of awareness, like attention leads to cognition. You know, you get thinking leads to decisions lead to action, and that the music goes round and around. I just don't understand how like shoveling more of that horror into my face, a deliberately very aggressive, let's just say there's a lot to be gained for anybody who like wants to feel sad right now.
Right.
If you're in that business of keeping people a little bit sad, this is a boom economy in certain ways. But I don't know. I think we you know, Kierkegaard talks about this feeling of wanting to be consumed, you know, by our angst or by our grief or by our whatever it is. But like, I'm probably grossly misquoting him at this point, but like the idea that like you're going to keep living until you die, that's basically the stakes. And it's like you're not going to live any better by convincing yourself that there's new things you can do nothing about that. And if you can, that's good. Maybe, and if it's fun, that's good. I'm not trying to say any given thing. What I am trying to say is drinking salt water will kill you. So if you think you're quenching your thirst with salt water, I think the guy in the Black Freighter says, you know, in a Watchmen says, you know, you can drink salt water for like a short period of time and survive, but you don't want to be doing that forever. Look how it turned out with him. No spoilers. but what I am saying is sometimes, you know, as smart and as invulnerable as we want to be, we do sometimes very much work at cross purposes with ourselves, with the things we claim that are important, or the things that we claim we're focusing on, or all those different kinds of like tentpole things that I feel very strongly about. And I don't know, I feel a spiritual kinship with you here, Christina, because I think I feel a similar way. I feel the sort of the guilt of like, why haven't I done more? But hey, you know, this is what y'all wanted.
Yep. Yeah, there's a certain point where it's almost it's like preservation.
You beat us. You beat us.
You beat us. You beat us real good on every level. And now this is what it is. And I you know,
Yeah.
I'm not at that point. Like, and but like where I worry, and I don't think I think it's okay for it to have lasted as long as it's lasted and for it to last longer. But like, I don't want it to get to the point where I'm just like so completely like tapped out that like, you know what I mean? Like right now, I can't engage, and I can't pretend to like, you know, get upset and get like overly invested in any of it, because I don't.
And then what happens? The cautionary tale, and then we should probably talk about something else. But the cautionary tale then becomes like, okay, so you've gotten really good. You've gotten a hair trigger about always being able to like detect and internalize and potentially integrate the shittiness of the world. You've gotten has gotten so efficient at doing that. And when does that stop? When and put differently, put more saliently, when do you realize that's just one of your strategies? And as I like to say, in my things I say to myself, one of those things is remember your toolbox. Remember you've got a toolbox. Like that can be one of the things in your toolbox, but you don't want that to be your whole white panel van for life. Is just constantly on the edge of just diarrheaing yourself with this inability to do anything, and then just getting so efficient at sucking it all in. And it's like, where are you in all of that? If one could ask, you know? I don't know. Talking about some,
you guys want to? Do you want to move on to a gratitude?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I recommend everybody go listen to Sammy Davis Jr.'s "I'm Gonna Live Until I Die," which is off of the Sammy Davis Jr. album, "The Wham of Sam."
Will you add that to the show note as
It's
a
just
listener
Kierkegaard,
recommendation?
Man.
Yeah, I will.
Also, before we do that,
I kind of like my Sammy Davis. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to do a screenshot of this because this is a pretty good Sammy. Hey man, what's happening, cat?
Merlin,
Shit.
what Elvis
Yes.
book did you get? Did you get his Elvis book or his last 24 hours of Elvis from the author?
It's Albert Goldman, circa 80-ish.
Yeah.
I think
Well, no,
it's called
he wrote
Elvis.
2. Okay, yeah, because he wrote 2. One was Elvis.
It's just the one called Elvis.
Okay, got it. Great, because I'm gonna buy that.
I think. I mean, I'm not sure. It's somewhere in the house. I'm not sure.
Well,
where.
no. One was the last 24 hours of Elvis or whatever, and then he wrote I guess after, and then this was one just called Elvis.
I'm a Zen master. I'm a Zen master, buddy. I say get them both. If you can find them, get them.
You
get
know
them
what?
both.
For $7, I'm gonna do it. Awesome.
Stocking stuffer. Can I just say?
I mean, look, I have
whichever one you like least, give to a loved one, and now that's theirs.
And you're like, hi,
they'll take care of it.
Please read my trash Pulp Fiction from 40 years ago. Even though it's not fiction, from what you say, it might be.
It should be true. Oh, there's a lot in there. I know it's not just the one chapter. It's also how he had hole in the wall so he could watch ladies wrestle in their underpants.
Oops.
He had a heavily mistreated chimp that would throw poop at people. It was very poorly socialized.
Him and Michael
also, what are
Jackson.
you even doing with a chimp? Like step 0,
I mean, I'd be definitely. It's Spider Monkey if I had to make a choice.
Oh yeah, Spider Monkey. I remember Richard Pryor bit about that. Anyway, Elvis was a model citizen.
No, he was, and we definitely.
I was quoting Lilo and Stitch.
Well said.
Elvis Presley was a model citizen. I love that movie too much.
I do too. That movie is really good. But yeah, we should do gratitudes.
Okay, who wants to go first? I'll start.
Yeah.
I'll start since I had mine premeditated, and the rest of you are probably figuring it out on the fly.
No, I've got mine figured out.
Speak for yourself.
I think Jeff has actually mentioned this one before, but I wanted to talk about Super Key.
Oh yeah, super fun.
It's a cool little utility. It has the ability to make a hyper key, which is when your
I remember this.
Caps lock becomes Control Shift, Alternate, and Command. But I still use Carabiner for that. I find it more seamless to use something closer to hardware level. But what Super Key does for me is I can press on my keyboard, it's hyper key and semicolon. So it's my 2 pinkies. I hit that combination and a little search bar pops up and I can type and it can find any button, any text, anything on the screen that has letters. And I just type the first few letters of the button I want to click, and then I hit return, and it clicks that button.
Is it you're flipping on not accessibility, but you're flipping on screen recording?
Both.
And
it uses accessibility and screen recording, and it can find. There's another one called Whoosh that only does menu items.
There's a lot buttons. Of those that are like Command Shift question mark on steroids kind of thing.
Well, I also love Paletro, which it gives you like Command Shift P.
I think that's on setup.
Yeah, so.
It is. And Paletro is great for quickly accessing menu items for which I haven't bothered to memorize keyboard shortcuts. But Super Key means that I can access buttons that don't even have keyboard shortcuts almost as if they had keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's my pick.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome. So I will go next. This is a weird one. Because I've never had I don't think I've ever picked a Chrome extension as my gratitude, but I'm going to. Yeah. So with the new job, I am using the Chrome web browser for the majority of what I do. I still use some native apps sometimes, but I because of software policy stuff, I can't use an app like MimeStream for mail. I have to use Gmail and PWA. I have to use other things. And obviously we are completely all in on Google Docs and all of that stuff. And so as a result, I have and I've always had a kind of a struggle with how are you managing all of your different windows, Chrome tabs. But now it's like that, but like times 1,000, because I probably have 100, or not 100, but I probably have 10 different windows with, 40 or 50 different tabs at any given time. And the frustrating thing can be is that if you have too many tabs, in like a window, then to the point like you can't see all the tabs and you can't like, scroll through the next thing. And obviously you can use keyboard shortcuts to see what's there, but it can sometimes you're just like, I just want to pull this freaking tab out of this window and put it in its own thing and kind of start over from this point, or just have this one be frontmost because maybe I'm having a video call here or something else, or it's a document or something else. And, usually you could just kind of, grab the bar and drag it and whatnot. But I'm like, I needed a keyboard shortcut for this. And so I found this extension, which is in the Chrome store, but it's also on GitHub, called Tab to Window. And basically you can set up a hotkey. In my case, I'm using Option, but you could set it to be whatever you want, where I basically press Option X on the tab that I'm in, and it will immediately open it into a new window, basically. And you can also set it to go to a different display if that's what you want with the different shortcut. You can also make it open as a pop-up so that
it's window management, but for a browser.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And you can even set up
like Moom or something like
precisely.
that, right?
And you can even set it up like if what you want to not to resize or to resize to basically be exactly like a keyboard based Windows manager, but for your browser windows. And for me, this has just been incredibly useful because I have so many of them all the time that I'm very frequently needing to pop one out or move it to some other thing. And I don't want to have to fuck with my mouse or my trackpad. And so just being able to use keyboard shortcuts is great.
Nice. That's super cool.
Yeah,
that's
I like
awesome.
That. I always feel like I should spend more time with things like Keyboard Maestro and, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying these words. This is such an indictment. Because for years, the whole reason I wouldn't learn I wouldn't open Keyboard Maestro is I got the big blinking attractive nuisance light.
Right.
Like, don't make this into your next Quicksilver where all you do is think about it all day long.
Exactly.
Like, I got to be careful with those kinds of things. With that said, there are times where y'all know how to do stuff in the terminal. Like I just open prompt and like hit it like a chimp. I don't know what I'm doing, but then there are certain kinds of things where I'm like, oh, like in drafts or like, I'll just like, there's a little dumb thing I want to fix, or I want a keyboard command that works the same between like, it's just so fast and easy with Keyboard Maestro and Better Touch Tool. Thank you.
Yes. There you go.
You're the one who turned me on to that one.
It's great.
I mean, you can make chords and you can basically play Color My World by Chicago to make something happen on your iPad.
Yes.
You actually literally can do that because they have MIDI triggers.
Oh, come on.
They have MIDI triggers in Keyboard Maestro.
I can finally use that Arturia I've never used. I thought I fixed something, and I don't know what happened. At a point, drafts very intelligently stopped working with Text Expander, and there was a fix I feel like I learned about from Dr. Drang, and then one day it went away on iOS, and I don't know, because SDATE, short date. I'm just constantly typing that for an ISO date. But like there are times where I'm like, because I've been working on trying to figure out what I broke, and I'm so embarrassed to ask anybody what it is because I had done it. I brought all my Text Expander into, I thought, Keyboard Maestro, but maybe I didn't. And how did that work on iOS? And am I drunk? Like, but what was the point of that? I'm sorry. We're still
you were saying you think that you should get more into like some of these tools.
And I'll think sometimes like I need to go in and find out what I did before, and I start poking around, and then it's like I start going, ooh. Yeah. I didn't realize you can have a window go do a thing based on when this kind of things happens. And it's kind of like me trying to get into stuff with HomeKit and some combination of ChatGPT and shortcuts and Home, where I try to get stuff like turn off once I plug in my scooter, turn it off after this long and that kind of stuff. And like, it's an attractive nuisance. It's not bad, but like this is the canonical 43 folders, Merlin, you've got to watch your ass, or this is what you do now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like those apps are so exciting, but like each time I look at them to fix something, I notice something else, and I go,
and then I'm like, and then my ADHD kicks in, and I'm like hyper focusing on it, and then I look up and I'm like, it's been 6 hours.
I know. I've been tagging MP3s. Hey, can I give you a hot tip while we're at it? Really, really dumb, no brainer hot tip. This is a phrase I've used for years, and it was actually kind of 2 tips. One tip, as I talked about on my new weblog or blog, is that you should put things where you look for it, not where you think it should go. And the same goes for Launch Bar. It goes for Launch Bar. It goes for Keyboard Maestro. It goes for all these different kinds of things. So one of the hot tips was to start noticing stuff that could be in a better location. And the other one, I created a list in the Reminders app called Mosquito. And the reason is, there's a term I used to use, and I wrote about this on my stupid goddamn weblog, my old weblog. I call mosquito task, which is like stuff that's not, this is a very GTD adjacent idea of like, you've got projects and you've got tasks. And then, because you got contexts, why don't we work that? So maybe one of those contexts is stuff that I do when I've got the house to myself on a Thursday. Like, where does that go? Long story short, anyways, think about that. That's 1.5 tips so far. Think about the mosquito tasks in your life. Just like, pick a place to put all my pencils, like whatever, just dumb stuff. A lot of it's little fixes. I created a reminders list called Mosquito. The point is, if you create a list in Reminders with whatever the hell you call your stack of stuff, for me, it's Mosquito list. I've heard Sircusa refer to his, whatever it is he does, he won't talk about it, as his cue. It's so nice to be able to be wandering around the house, see a nail that needs to be pounded in or removed, and say, hey, dingus. So of course I still have to think about this. Hey, dingus, add fix the nail to my mosquito list. And because of the regressions in Siri, I don't know if you all have heard the latest ATP all the way through.
Yes.
But oh my God. It really is kind of mind-boggling that these assistants aren't as good as they were in 2015.
It's incredible.
You just heard me,
2010. Like it's awful.
Hey Siri, remind me to call Christina when I arrive at the house in 2 hours.
Clunk. Crickets.
Oh, are you here? You're here, aren't you? Oh, no, let me guess. You're going to create a custom playlist for me because I wanted to see if you were turned on. Oh, I have to. Oh, hang on. Oh, I thought our system didn't work anymore. But then I had to empty the bucket on the dehumidifier. So I touched the AirPod and now it's playing Turn It On Again by Genesis everywhere.
I asked it to tell me the news and it read a Wikipedia article about the Jews.
Hey Siri, what month is it?
Exactly.
Hey, Siri,
that's the best one. It can't tell you.
March 22nd, 2025.
They fixed it.
Whoa.
They saw the Gruber article about what month it is, and they fixed it.
This is to inform you that actually it's great at knowing what month it is. If you have a parser that can run on the sound in the air, it could automatically parse that using a Perl script of your own design. And that would be able to send that, push that as a push notification. It would be able to push that right to your device.
Duh.
Actually, duh. I thought you liked Perl. I'm not angry.
Speaking of all these apps that we all in our little world, they're all like easy mentions. Part of the thing I found most frustrating about shadowing one person at work was,
I can't imagine you
was that you were shadowing one person at work.
Yes, but like somebody who doesn't know how to do shit, you know how to do it, must drive you crazy.
Well, so one of the things, part of their job was to reply with these kind of canned replies to different situations. And they
what
had,
are you doing now? I see is that a canned reply? Okay, got it.
They have multiple Confluence pages. And I don't know if you guys have used Confluence, but it is very slow. And loading different pages takes forever. And to reply to an email, they would open their browser, go to Confluence, navigate to the page, find that section of the page, copy it, go back to their email program and paste it. And basically it amounted to maybe 7 snippets.
Right.
That could be like with like text expander or
it would be
TextBlaze.
like having a new key cut every time you needed to get in your house.
Right.
Yeah. It was so painful. It was so painful. She's like, now I'll show you a trick. So this
you can have them both up on the screen at the same time.
You're going to want to watch this.
I got a bookmark for all these things to make it just that much faster to open up.
I'm copying, I'm clicking, I'm pasting. Watch. I'm going to show you a quick way to do this. I'm finding a menu, I'm clicking.
It was infuriating. I didn't even buy. I at that point we were an hour in,
right?
And I had shut up.
No,
I wasn't going to teach her about text expander.
No, you're not. No.
I was like, this is just my job now anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, right, and you're also like, I'm not going to get into how like text expander works or even using the built-in expansion, on like, on a Mac or on Windows or whatever. I'm not going to bother with it because you're not going to use it. So, or even the features that like might be built into like Gmail or whatever app you're using, like or Outlook or whatever. I'm assuming you can set up things like that.
People who still don't know capital A and like capital and capital or, people who are still just walking around typing, it's crazy making.
Yeah, no, at a certain point you're like, okay, I got it. If this is where our canned things go, I will script this myself, but I'm not going to bother telling you anything because you're not going to use it anyway.
Right. Exactly. All right. Who's left?
Jeff?
Christina.
No, I did. I went.
No, you went with the tabs. The tabs. Merlin.
Control Center.
Control Center.
Control Center on iOS. Because now there's stuff that you can do. We've always been able to, I don't know, I don't care how long it's been, how it is. I'm just going to say words. It's so neat that you can drag stuff around.
Yes.
Amazing.
Where you want.
And there are multiple sections now.
Yep.
Well, let's start with this is kind of cool, right? First of all, anything with a camera icon always goes in the upper right. As we know from Nevin Mergen, that's the only place anything with a camera goes. But you put it wherever you want. But I started thinking more and more like, and I'm just going to walk, because I'm a dumb guy from the Midwest. I'm just going to walk you through some dumb guy stuff. One is, hey, I don't need a lot of the stuff that's here, which doesn't matter, except insofar as I'm not treating this like sorry to use one of my phrases, an active working area. Like this to me, this is an area where things are happening. We don't put garbage in an active working area. So on some level, now I started thinking about, oh gosh, there's probably stuff I don't need in here. Maybe stuff that I keep. Anybody ever done this? Keep stuff in your dock, keep stuff in your menu. You ever have stuff around because it's just always been there? You maybe even don't know what it is, not you guys, but some people have done that. And that becomes you get a little dumb when you start noticing things like that. So it started out as simple as, move these around, remove some of these. And then I started adding a few. I changed the size of certain things. But then, just because this works for me, I use things for my stuff. I added a new item to add something in things. Easy. Adds a new inbox entry. I got another one that's just a shortcut that does nothing but take whatever audio is playing and runs it through my AirPods Max. It does one thing. That's it. Stuff like, low battery, all that kind of stuff. Here's a huge one. And this is kind of when it all changed, is that this is a button.
Merlin is holding his phone to the camera.
For creating a new item in the app Datum, Daytum. And as it happens, Datum by the guy. Who's the guy, Brett?
Donnie Datum.
I don't remember.
Donnie Daly.
Donald Duck Datum.
Donald Duck Datum.
I'll look it up. You continue talking.
Don't boss me. What was I talking about? Anyways, Datum. And so the Datum, it's a thing for tracking things. And there's items. Items can have categories. They can have attributes. It's really, really cool. And I use it for when I take medicine, when I take an edible, like whatever. It just goes into there. Why does that matter? I don't know. It's not worth explaining to you if you don't already get it. But let's just say I can export that as a CSV or a JSON and integrate it with all of my Apple Health data and do things in ChatGPT that you find really annoying. It's the best.
Yeah.
So add something to Datum. It's right there.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means my phone is in its nothing's happening position. Nothing. I pull down from the top and now 1 click, 2 click, done.
Yeah.
I didn't unlock the phone overtly. I only got 4 spots in the dock. That right there, stop right there. That is magic.
Yep.
Go in and look at stuff. This could be, how it's already kind of neat that Spotlight on iOS is a little like, Launch Bar or Spotlight on a Mac, but like this would take it even further. Now, to whomever said that before, I think Christina, the sections.
Yes.
You can now add a button, at least on the beta. Sorry, this will probably be in the public soon, but you can add like an ambient music button that'll just play a playlist of ambient music. You know what those Hollywood fat cats don't tell you? You can make that link to any playlist you have. So you
nice.
get a single button that you associate with, in my case, my Getting Pumped. I have 3 Getting Pumped Up playlists.
Love
my
it.
favorite of which is the studio version of Born Slippy, Nux, and a live version from Belgium of Born Slippy. I can put that right here and click it. That's right there. And I'm almost done. But the other page stuff, fantastic.
Yeah.
So I've got a section. Now, let me just point out, though, I don't know how many folks know this. When you do that poll, I can't see this because I'm doing it backwards. You can go do a long-ass poll that will take you to your lower sections.
Yep.
I'm now, you saw what I did, one poll?
Yeah, that's right. And it has haptics.
Oh, wow.
And it has like haptic
I didn't
things.
know this.
And it has like haptic things, so it feels good.
Look at my home stuff, right?
Yep.
This is stuff at my house. This is stuff at my office.
Merlin has done a long pull.
Long pull down that right. So take everything about the main thing I wanted to tell you is, hey guys, check out Control Center. It's really cool. And notice stuff you can put on that first page, but now you can make your own pages. I know you know that. I know you read 9 to 5 Mac, but what did you do last week to actually operationalize that?
Yeah.
Did you take a half a goddamn minute to think about a way you could make that better? Yeah, I know you know it. That and $7 will get you a cup of coffee. What the fuck are you doing to make your phone work better? Put stuff in Control Center, use it in long drag.
Sure as two nickels will make a dime.
The frog had wings, wouldn't bump his ass a hopping.
Hey yo!
You got chairs, you got a dinette set. You got no chairs, you got dick. I asked my wife, she got more sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's got
If we had eggs, we
shit
could have
on
bacon and eggs. If we had bacon.
And when there was no when there was no pork, we ate fowl.
Datum was conceived by
no
Ryan
fowl.
Case and Nicholas Felton.
That's the one. When there was no fowl, we ate sand. We ate sand. We ate sand. You know what's a very quotable movie? Is
that for Raising Arizona? You know that I just played my family.
What's a
movie
rocky
for the
place
first
where my
time,
seed could
where
find
my seed could not find purchase.
I'm high, I'm barren. She got you on a pretty short leash, don't she? If you don't breastfeed, it'll hate you for life.
It'll hate you for life.
Turn to the right.
Barren place full of rocks where my seed could not find purchase.
All right.
You ate sand? And here's the thing, though. You know what else in terms of these little beauties nobody cares about? I love my comfort food on the YouTube. Shut up. I like my comfort.
Hell yes.
I found between seasons of Taskmaster because that's my main thing. Y'all should watch
Thank you for turning me on to
Taskmaster
that, by the
New
way.
Zealand. Oh, did you watch New Zealand at all?
No.
You watched a straight one? Oh my God. Sometimes you'll just find the best fucking stuff. Somebody, I never want to say these things. Somebody created an account and it's uploaded a fuck ton of old VHS recorded copies of Inside the Actor Studio.
Yes!
From the late 90s
Yes!
and early 2000s.
Holy shit, that was my favorite show.
Awesome.
I loved that show.
Amazing.
I love
show.
Bravo so much for that.
You'd be surprised. Yeah, it used to be A&E. It was on and it was, but it's so funny. And then of course Will Ferrell did a funny character, but only because we all loved the way that guy was. His little surprises. You know, were you aware that when you were 3 years old, you had a scab that was saved by your aunt? Here's that scab.
Oh my God!
Like
Oh my God! I just had a realization, and someone else has probably come up with this before, but this is the first time this has occurred to me, and I don't think I've heard this. Hot Ones is the modern day Inside the Actor Studio.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That is good. The one I wanted to commend you guys to, and
that's actually a really good way to explain Hot Ones to.
Oh my God!
People.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Inside the Actor Studio with hot wings.
And instead of the Proust questionnaire, you got the Apollo sauce. You know what I mean?
Right. But it's the same type of thing. Like he does the same sort of research.
I love women, but I deny them my essence. I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, and the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
Dark turn.
Did we just go Dr. Strangelove?
I'm pure. I can walk.
All right, Jeff, what's your pick?
One is that my Control Center matches the arc of my thumb.
I love that.
That's cool.
I do that all the time, dude. I've started making pages that I just, again, put things not where you think they go. Look, I've done stuff because that's where my thumb wants to fall. I'm that dumb, and I love it.
My son thinks I'm fucking crazy. So what the fuck is this? Like, just go to college.
That's not very aesthetic.
Mine is, it's funny you brought up Datum because mine is the second time I've done this, but it's chronicling, which I started now a year and a half ago. And I had tried Datum, which I also really like. And for some reason chronicling stuck. That stuff doesn't stick with me.
I like the woman who makes that is so clever.
Yeah, Rebecca Owen, and she's
nice
it's just
too.
a single developer. She does a very nice job. She does it's a very sort of slow, steady pace of small, meaningful updates. and is really just sort of like it's wonderful. It's a very like, humane, loving app, and it allows you, similar to Datum, you create categories, you create specific things. You can go in and log when it was. You log the time, and then you can make a little note. And the way I've ended up using it mostly is actually not how I started using it. So I have a category that has like live music in it, series or movies finished, some reading. I didn't do like read a book. It's just I did some reading, and then I write what it was, and I have this list that again I can export as a CSV. And the live music, I can go back and just see the shows. Somehow I go to live shows again for the first time in forever, even though it hurts my body very badly. And then I have like these really meaningful journals for me, which is like when I call my dad, which isn't often as I should, call your mother, I make a little note of like just 3 things we talked about. And then I can kind of see that going backwards.
I cannot endorse this highly enough.
Then when I
what I call a
travel
journal
now,
calendar. Like
yeah,
anywhere
exactly.
that you can capture something that happened. This is the beauty of the calendar. A calendar tells you you've committed to doing something in the future, and you've already done something in the past. That's 2 benefits of a calendar. Anything that helps you capture that for whatever works for your brain, just start doing it now. It's not an old person thing, but it sure doesn't hurt as you get older.
It's great. And I've always been terrible about doing that in my calendar. And this is the first time that I've steadily, so I have one that's for travel, and I just say a word about day 1, a word about day 2, and I can go back and remember that. And then, of course I can export it. And with the TV and series stuff, or the series and movie stuff, it's super fun because I put that in the ChatGPT and just look for like patterns. I can just say like, how many cinematographers show up more than once in this list or whatever. So I love that app. Really, really love it. I've ended up using it not how I thought I would. And this is not the kind of thing that I usually hang on to for this long. So
good pick.
Rebecca Owen, thank you for your really cool work.
Yeah, Rebecca's done a couple of giveaways now on my blog, and she is a delight to work with.
Awesome.
Makes great apps.
That's great.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Rogue Amoeba.
Rebecca.
Thank you, anybody who's out there making things for people in a humane way.
Yes. Beautiful.
I'll save it for another week, but I started using Mac Whisper to record.
Finally added, sorry.
It can record Zoom meetings.
That's what I've been doing this week.
And then it has AI built in, so I can record the Zoom meeting, and then at the end of the Zoom meeting, I can have it remind me what the key points were.
Yes.
And it just added speaker recognition if you're doing
yes,
it kind of works. It's getting
and it kind of works. Yeah, exactly.
It works okay.
The dream of transcribing all of the episodes and sticking it in the dingus.
Yeah,
we're almost there.
Yeah,
so close. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We did this in 2 hours. 2 hours. That's a pretty standard Merlin episode.
It
for us.
Never moved.
It's a treat for the people, and thank you, Merlin, so much for spending all your time with us because we love having you.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys for having me. You're so sweet to put up with me. It's really nice to be here.
Great to have you here.
All right. Well, everyone, get some sleep.
Get some sleep.
The system is going down low.